I knew something was wrong the moment my CEO called me into his office. He was smiling. Marcus Hale never smiled unless someone was about to bleed. I'm Evan Reyes, Senior Project Manager at Hale Tech Industries. Or at least I was until that day. For 5 years, I'd practically lived in that glass and steel building, grinding through late nights and impossible deadlines to keep Marcus's company afloat. He was brilliant, sure, but the kind of brilliant that scorched everything around it. And for reasons I never understood, he'd always had a strange fixation on me. Praise 1 minute, cold silence the next. A chess player observing a pawn he wasn't sure if he wanted to keep or crush. When I walked into his office, my badge still warm against my chest from the morning elevator ride, Marcus gestured toward the chair across from him. Sit, Evan, he said. Calm. Too calm. I obeyed, trying to ignore the way the massive city skyline behind him made him look like a king addressing a subject. You've been with us a long time, he began, folding his hands. Which is why this is unfortunate. My heartbeat stuttered. Unfortunate. He nodded slowly, as if performing grief for an audience. I'm terminating your employment. Effective immediately. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. For what reason? Marcus waited a beat, just long enough to let the panic settle, before saying, no reason. No reason. That was the phrase that detonated my entire world. I don't understand, I stammered. My team just delivered the Nova contract ahead of schedule. We saved the company millions. My record is clean. Marcus leaned back, eyes sharp with something almost amused. This isn't about performance. It's just business. Business. The word tasted like poison. He slid a folder across the desk. Inside was a pre-written termination agreement. No severance. No explanation. No dignity. He'd planned this. Carefully. We'll need your badge, Marcus said, holding out his hand. I hesitated, pulse thundering. Sir, I've given this company everything. I know, he said with that thin, empty smile. That's why it was time. The security guard waiting at the door cleared his throat. I stood, handed over my badge, walked out. As I rode the elevator down, past the floors where I'd worked, sweated, succeeded, I felt a sickening twist in my gut. Marcus hadn't fired me for no reason. He wasn't that reckless. There was a reason. I just didn't know yet whether it was the lie he was hiding, or the betrayal he wasn't finished committing. And as I stepped onto the street, one thing gnawed at me. Marcus Hale had looked almost relieved to get rid of me, staring at my almost like he knew what was coming next. Every interaction I'd had with Marcus Hale over the last 6 months. Now that his fake sympathy had faded from my memory, something else took its place. Patterns. Red flags I'd ignored. The first one started 3 months ago, when Marcus hired his new strategic advisor, a slick, overly friendly guy named Tyler Voss. Tyler was barely 30, but Marcus treated him like he'd invented electricity. Corner office. High salary. Immediate authority to override project decisions, including mine. At first I shrugged it off as your typical CEO infatuation with shiny new talent. But then Tyler began attending meetings that had nothing to do with his role. Meetings I used to lead. Deals I'd spent months nurturing suddenly reassigned to him. And every time I asked about it, Marcus would say, just trying out a new structure, Evan. Don't take it personally. I did. But I kept working. Harder. Another red flag came during the Nova contract, the biggest project Hale Tech had landed in years. Late one night, I'd stayed behind to finish projections when I heard Marcus in his office, talking low and urgent on a call. I'd only caught fragments. Don't worry, he doesn't know. Paperwork will be clean. Once he's out, we move. I told myself I'd misheard. That he didn't mean me. But Marcus had stepped out the moment he noticed me in the hallway, face tight, as if I'd walked in on a confession instead of a phone call. Then there were the lies. Small ones that wouldn't matter unless you stacked them together. Like how he claimed budget cuts forced him to freeze promotions, but then gave Tyler a bonus the size of my annual salary. Or how he insisted the Nova contract was at risk, even though the client personally emailed me saying they were thrilled. Worst of all, he started excluding me from presentations I'd built. He'd smile in that too calm way and say, "You're overloaded. Let Tyler take this one." But I knew better. I felt the ground shifting. I just refused to believe it meant he was digging a hole for me. And now, sitting in my dim kitchen, the emotional weight crushed me. 5 years of loyalty, late nights, missed holidays, skipped vacations, all erased with a smug smile and 2 words, no reason. I felt humiliated, disposable, but also uneasy. Because the more I replayed those last months, the more one thing bothered me. Marcus had not just fired me. He'd removed me. Like I was an obstacle to something he didn't want me to see. And deep down, an awful thought crept in, one I wasn't ready to say out loud. Maybe the no reason was the biggest lie of all. I didn't plan to uncover the truth. I was just trying to figure out how to tell my family I'd been fired for no reason when my phone buzzed with a message from my old teammate, Jenna. "Evan, you need to see this. Call me ASAP." I called instantly. She picked up in a whisper, her voice trembling. "Evan, something's happening here. The whole office is tense. Tyler's walking around like he owns the place. And Marcus, he told everyone you resigned." My stomach flipped. He told them what? That you stepped down after an internal review. He's saying you botched the Nova projections. They're telling clients that your work nearly tanked the contract. My pulse roared in my ears. That's a lie. My numbers were airtight. "I know," Jenna said. "Which is why I checked the file." A beat of silence. "Evan, the projections in the system aren't yours anymore." Cold dread spread through my chest. "What do you mean they aren't mine?" "I mean someone swapped them. Replaced the forecasts with false data. It makes it look like you made a catastrophic error." I felt sick. That phone call weeks ago, "He doesn't know. Once he's out, we move," slammed back into my memory. "Jenna, tell me exactly what you saw." She inhaled shakily. "The document metadata. It was altered a week before you were fired. And the person listed under the last edit." She hesitated. "It was Tyler." The room spun. Marcus hadn't just fired me. He and Tyler had sabotaged my work, forged evidence, and then used it to justify erasing me from the company. But why? I whispered. Jenna lowered her voice even more. "Because of the Nova expansion deal. I overheard Marcus talking to some executive this morning. They're announcing a major restructuring, one that puts Tyler in charge of the entire division. The board thinks he saved the contract." The betrayal hit like a blade sliding between my ribs. 5 years of loyalty. 5 years of building that division from the ground up. And Marcus had fired me for no reason because the real reason would have exposed him. He stole my work to make Tyler look like a miracle hire. I gripped the edge of the table until my fingers hurt. "You're saying he ruined my career to hand Tyler a promotion?" "Yes," she whispered. "And Evan, he's already talking about barring you from future clients. He wants you blacklisted." My vision blurred with rage. Pure, shaking rage. He didn't just want me gone. He wanted me destroyed. But as the fury burned through me, something else rose beneath it, something sharp, cold, and controlled. If Marcus thought I'd go quietly, he'd severely underestimated the man he tried to bury. Because I wasn't done. Not even close. And I knew exactly who I needed to call next. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was replaying Marcus's expression when he fired me, though that haunted me too, but because of everything Jenna had uncovered. The fake projections. The lies. The blacklisting. The deliberate plan to erase my career and hand my achievements to Tyler like a gift-wrapped trophy. For hours, I sat alone in my apartment, lights off, city humming outside the window, feeling the weight of betrayal settle like wet cement around my ribs. I'd built Hailtecker's entire project division with my own hands. I'd given Marcus loyalty he didn't deserve. Now he'd torched my reputation, hoping the flames would hide his corruption. There was a moment, around 3 a.m., when I almost broke. When the shame, anger, and helplessness twisted together so tightly I couldn't tell one from another. Then my phone buzzed. A notification. From the company email account I still had synced to my phone, one they'd forgotten to revoke access to. Subject line, final draft, press release, division promotion announcement. My breath caught. I opened it. There it was. The official statement Marcus planned to release at noon. Under the leadership of Tyler Voss, the Nova contract has achieved unprecedented success. After the departure of former manager Evan Reyes, whose performance concerns made continued oversight untenable. My hands began to shake. Not only was he stealing my achievement, he was branding me incompetent. Publicly. Permanently. That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not a breakdown. Not despair. Something cleaner. Sharper. A decision. I read that sentence over and over until the humiliation curdled into resolve. He wanted to ruin my name? Fine. But I wasn't going to let him write the ending. I opened a blank note on my phone and typed a name I hadn't dared consider until now. Attorney Sophia Trent, Employment and Corporate Litigation. Sophia wasn't just a lawyer. She was a storm in heels. A former federal prosecutor who'd built a reputation tearing apart corrupt executives. I'd met her once at a conference years ago, back when I still believed Hale Tech was a place worth being proud of. She'd handed me her card and said, "If your company ever plays dirty, call me." Back then I laughed. Now I wasn't laughing. I stared at the glowing screen, thumb hovering over the call button. This was it. My line in the sand. My refusal to be buried. Marcus thought firing me would silence me. He had no idea he'd created a version of me that no longer feared him. I exhaled slowly, steady, certain, and pressed call. The phone rang once. Twice. Then Sophia answered. "Evan. It's late. What's wrong?" I swallowed hard, voice firming with every word. I think my CEO just made the biggest mistake of his career. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt strong. Sophia didn't waste time. By morning she'd drawn a map of what needed to happen and handed me my first orders like a captain arming a ship. Sophia told me not to touch anything in the company systems, but to preserve it. "We'll need a forensic snapshot," she said. "Emails, document metadata, access logs, everything." She arranged a digital preservation hold so Hale Tech couldn't legally alter or destroy evidence without tipping their hand. Jenna, still on the inside and terrified, became our dangerous ally. She agreed to silently collect copies of the altered files and forward them to a secure drop before anyone could notice. Sophia wanted proof that Marcus and Tyler stood to gain if I disappeared. I dug through meeting minutes, compensation reports, Tyler's sudden bonus, and the restructure memo Jenna had seen. We built a timeline: Tyler's arrival, Marcus's phone calls, the metadata edit, the promotion announcement draft. Each entry was a nail. We hired an independent digital forensics firm. Their first report would need to be indisputable: time-stamped edits, IP addresses, account access logs showing Tyler's credentials coinciding with the alterations. If the edits mapped back to a corporate terminal or an off-site VPN Marcus used, the implications would be explosive. Sophia wanted Hale Tech to reveal itself. So we drafted a quiet demand letter, formal, laced with the forensic firm's preliminary findings, and sent it to Marcus's inbox and the board's legal counsel. The letter didn't scream. It whispered a single, unavoidable truth. We were ready to litigate publicly. The board would want to know. Tyler would panic. Marcus had always been allergic to risk. If this went public without our control, Marcus could shape it. Sophia had me prepare a short, factual statement for clients and press, in case we needed to hit back fast. No melodrama. Just dates, facts, claims of forgery, and our intent to pursue legal remedies. We had to be credible. Credibility would destroy his no reason lie faster than anything else. I kept working the dark corners. I called old clients, discreetly, asking if they'd noticed anything odd about their correspondence. A couple were surprised. One forwarded an email that mentioned a meeting Tyler had attended alone. Small confirmations, but together they formed a mosaic. Yet through every step, The villain still seemed in control. Marcus continued his public march, announcing Tyler's promotion by noon, grinning for photographers, sending sympathy emails about organizational changes. He moved like a man who believed the board and press were his to command. That arrogance was both infuriating and dangerous. It meant he underestimated us, and kept exposing himself. On the eve of our first legal move, I sat with Sophia in her office. The forensic report lay between us, thick with redacted technical data and a single, blunt conclusion. Unauthorized edits traced to company credentials and an external VPN tied to Marcus's personal device. My hands trembled as I looked up. Outside, the city gleamed oblivious. Tomorrow, we would deliver the evidence to the board. Tomorrow, Marcus would have to answer. He still had a smile. He still thought he was untouchable. Tomorrow might prove him right. Unless he'd already left footprints he could never wash away. The boardroom felt like a sealed vault, silent, airless, every executive staring at the stack of documents Sophia placed on the polished table. Marcus sat at the head, arms crossed, wearing that smug, unbreakable smile I'd grown to despise. Tyler hovered beside him, jittery, pretending confidence. They looked like kings prepared to swat down a petty complaint. They had no idea they were standing on a trapdoor. Sophia spoke first. Thank you all for agreeing to this emergency session. What you're about to see concerns corporate fraud, falsification of financial data, and the deliberate sabotage of a long-term employee. Marcus chuckled. Let's not waste time with dramatics, Ms. Trent. Evan was terminated for cause. Sophia raised a brow. Then I'm sure you won't mind if we review the evidence demonstrating he wasn't. She tapped a key on her laptop. The screen behind her lit up with a document timeline, my Nova projections, followed by a string of metadata logs. The board members leaned forward. The original forecasts, Sophia said calmly, were accurate and approved by the client. The altered version, which falsely depicted a severe loss, was uploaded from a company terminal at 11:13 p.m., under Mr. Tyler Voss's login credentials. A murmur rippled through the room. Tyler turned white. I didn't, Marcus, you said. Quiet, Marcus hissed. But Sophia wasn't finished. However, she continued, the VPN used for the upload was not Tyler's. It was accessed from an external device linked to Marcus Hale. Gasps. Audible ones. Marcus's smile shattered. This is ridiculous, he snapped. Fabricated. He's a disgruntled ex-employee. Sophia clicked again. Emails filled the screen, his secret messages to the board's PR consultant, drafted weeks before my firing. Prepare messaging about performance issues. Reyes will be removed shortly. After the transition, Voss becomes division lead. Ensure projections look inconsistent. Every word was damning. Then came the final strike. Jenna stepped into the room, nervous but determined, and placed a flash drive in front of the board. These are audio backups from the internal call system, she said, including a recorded conversation between Marcus and Tyler about the plan to fire Evan and take credit for the Nova contract. Marcus shot to his feet. This is illegal. You can't use. It's company property, a board member cut in coldly. Silence fell as the audio played. Marcus's voice, clear as crystal. Once he's out, we move. The numbers will support the transition. Just make sure the edits look like his mistake. The board erupted. Within minutes, the chairwoman stood and said the words I'd replay for years. Marcus Hale, you are hereby removed as CEO pending full investigation. Security will escort you out. His face twisted, disbelief giving way to rage. You think this nobody, this employee, can take me down? I met his eyes. Calm. Steady. You destroyed my career for a promotion scheme. All I did was show them the truth. Marcus's voice cracked as guards took his arms. Tyler slumped in his seat, defeated. And as the board turned to me, offering compensation, reinstatement, an apology, I felt something I hadn't felt since the day this began. Vindication. The man who fired me for no reason was now losing everything for every reason he thought no one would ever uncover. My revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't violent. It was simply the truth, unleashed. And it hit harder than anything I could have planned. Marcus Hale didn't walk out of Hale Tech. He was dragged out, shouting threats that echoed down the hallway like a man watching his empire crumble in slow motion. For someone who once ruled the building like a tyrant in a glass tower, the sight was almost surreal. Tyler didn't fare much better. When the board saw the full forensic report, his role in the forgery became undeniable. His shiny promotion vanished, his contract was terminated, and last I heard, he was scrambling to find a job at a startup desperate enough not to ask questions about his past. Corporate sabotage tends to stain a resume in permanent ink. Meanwhile, the board asked me to return. Not as a project manager, but as interim director of operations. 5 years ago, I would have said yes without hesitation. But after everything Marcus did, after watching the company I trusted nearly eat me alive, I declined. Politely, calmly, on my own terms. Instead, I accepted a consulting contract that paid more than my old salary ever did, and allowed me to work with the clients who'd reached out to me personally after reading the board's official statement clearing my name. Word had spread fast. The press release exposed everything: the forgery, the fraud, the wrongful termination, and the story of a CEO brought down by the very employee he tried to destroy. Oh, the media devoured it. Hale Tech's stock dipped. Investors demanded audits. Marcus's golden legacy shattered like thin glass. Poetic justice in its purest form. As for me, I took a long overdue vacation. The kind with ocean views, slow mornings, and no corporate emergencies clawing at my phone. For the first time since Hale Tech hired me, I could breathe without feeling like someone was waiting to pull the floor out from under me. One evening, sitting on the balcony watching the sun disappear into the water, I realized something. Marcus hadn't fired me for no reason. He fired me because I was the only one who could prove he had one. He built his throne on lies. And in the end, it was the truth that burned it down. Before I wrap this up, you, watching this, have you ever been betrayed by someone in power? A boss who took credit for your work? A coworker who stabbed you in the back? A person who thought you were too small to fight back? Tell your story in the comments. I read every one. And if you want more tales like this, more real justice, more epic takedowns, more revenge served exactly the way it should be, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because trust me, sometimes the best revenge is letting the villain build their own downfall, and making sure the world sees it when they fall.